we begin to practice this embodied spirituality, I really like that phrase actually. Through energy cultivation, you start to notice the patterns of how you're creating your reality. And if you want to become more flexible in your mind, become more flexible in your body, right? If you want to become more fluid in your mind and your energy, become more fluid in your body, right? Because we as a Western culture live in our fucking heads, and we think because we read all the books and listen to all the podcasts, we're embodied. It's like, no, like you must. And or a great analogy is sex. It's like you can read about sex, you can talk about sex, you can dream about it, but then you can actually do it. You can actually engage in the sexual act itself. And I
Right.
think a lot of spirituality nowadays is too much theory and mind and not enough actual practice.
Yes.
Actual practice. And that's what I love about Dr. Johnson. He's like, the practices work. You just do the practices and find a practice that work for you, that you like. Spend 5 minutes, then that turns into 10 minutes, turns into an hour. Don't do all those advanced practices because you think you're going to get some special abilities.
Snap.
So there's a relaxation. I'm realizing the path of spirituality is more about letting go than trying to add on, right?
Here we go. Here we go. Good morning, brother man. Good morning to Raleigh, North Carolina.
What's up, my
It's good to
brother?
see you.
You too. Mm,
Wow. The candle is lit, the tea is served. Amazing.
ready.
That's how this.
Love you, man. I'm so stoked to be here. When you asked me
Mm,
last night, are we on? I was like, my mind was like, I got all these things to do, but my heart was like, yes, do it, and I just got to follow my heart.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm super glad you could make the time and hop onto this call again with me. Perhaps we can just do again what you just
Yeah, a
did
little
with me
practice.
when we tuned in,
Yeah,
because we had a little technical hiccup when we
that's
signed in
right.
here to this call, and you guided us through a beautiful little practice. Why not start with that again? Also for
Yeah,
the audience. How about
hallelujah.
that?
Yeah. So wherever you may be, feel free to, we're just going to connect to our breath, right? So we'll breathe
Hmm.
in through the nose and feel the spine get a little taller. You can close your eyes unless you're driving. Please keep them open.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Good.
And breathing into the belly like a balloon, and tuning into a smile in your heart, if you like. Just saying hello to the heart. Do this about 3 to 5 times. And sometimes I like to put a hand on my heart or my belly and just feel your breath. Let out a little sigh if you're feeling some stress or tension. Allowing ourselves permission to enter, to relax, to be together. And taking just 2 more breaths, tuning into your body, saying hello to your heart, your mind, your soul. And that little sound on the exhale helps to clear, cleanse. And then massage the heart, feel that inner smile, massage the belly, and move your body in a nourishing way, right? It's 6 in the morning here in North Carolina.
Oh,
So I was
jeez.
like, all right, it's 5:10. I usually try to get up between 5 and 5:30. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna make some tea and just chill the fuck out. And
Yeah.
not stressed. Yeah, it's funny though,
Right.
Dorje, because now I've been running an online business as like a Qi Gong teacher, like running a
Right.
modern mystery school online, which is such a weird thing. And
Woo.
now in our business meetings, sometimes we have technological glitches. Shit ain't working. I'm just like, everybody, we just
Mm-hmm.
need to breathe. Come on
Mm-hmm.
back, center, relax. And
Mm-hmm.
2 different times in the last 2 years, like like a glitch that we had no idea how to fix was it fixed itself. You know,
Yo.
it just fixed itself because we were like, you know, and we tried it. We were banging our head against the wall for, you know, many minutes. You know, feeling like,
Mm.
what's wrong? I was like, it's out of our control. Let's just breathe,
Yeah.
call in some higher guidance.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way to do it, man. I mean, technical glitches, they're everywhere. Obviously, you don't see that stuff on Instagram, right? On Instagram, you have all these beautiful technological setups, new cameras, new microphones, artificial intelligence to help you out. And then when you're in the middle of everything, or to begin with, shit just don't work. And you're like, fuck. And then, oh, center. Okay. Composure. Yin and yang, let go. Feng song. Okay. Release.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
So much
right.
good stuff. Cheers to
Yeah.
that, man.
Cheers,
What tea
brother.
are you having? What tea are you having this
You
morning?
know, this is pu'er, or pu'er, that I believe it's Big Snow Mountain. I've been doing a lot of
Mm.
oolong lately. My first Qigong master would drink oolong. And so I haven't drinking oolong in over a decade. And a dear friend came over and was like, I want to pour you some tea. I was like, sweet. And I was drinking this oolong, man. And I was taken back like 17 years ago. I was like,
Ooh.
whoa. I was like at my mom's house with Master Peter. And it was like a trip to know, like, you know, the scent and the flavor of things bring you back to these peak experiences and these moments of awakening. So now I've been drinking oolong for like 3 months straight. I'm just
Mm.
like, feel, you know, and there's such a brightness and a buoyancy. So for those of you who are tea lovers, um, you know, let's have a spot of tea together today. All right.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. Isn't that amazing? Like how the brain works and how just simply a smell or a taste can transport us back through time to some faraway
Yeah.
event in our lifetimes, and we're like, oh wow, I remember so vividly now.
Yes, 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 totally.
Hmm.
And I'm curious as we ground into each other and for your audience, for your people,
Yo.
um, you know, how can we be of most service to you and your people and your tribe
Hmm.
and the questions that your clients or students ask you, you know, what are the things that are like really alive? It's like, man, what's, you know, let's go deep into Qigong today. Let's get
Dude.
into the nitty
Yeah.
gritty and also the what I call the
Yeah.
practical magic, you know, like how do we
Hmm.
apply Qigong in our life? Because it's energy cultivation. Because people think
Right.
it's a mystical thing that's far away. It's like, no, it's like it's at our fingertips, you know, but there's
Hmm.
a quality of permission slip of like we gotta there's something like a shifting of the way we think about life, you know, orientation, you know, how we're orienting. So anyway, that's what's coming to my mind, and want to honor you and honor this space, my brother.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. In fact, you just picked the word that were in my head. Like, actually, I wanted to ask you, all right, brother, before we dive into Qigong, like, what is alive for you today? But I see we're already synchronized here.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the intention for me was to, I mean, I'm a very fortunate person because I
Hmm.
nowadays live a life where I travel the globe and I can travel from teacher to friends to exotic places, come back
Mm.
and bring interesting things back home.
Mm.
And like for my audience back home, what I want to do now is like reconnect the people that are back in Germany or in Europe, also to the people that I meet along my journeys, like that have inspired me, that have taught me stuff where I think,
Mm.
wow, this message should come out there and more people should hear about it. Now, obviously, most of the audience is German speaking, but doesn't matter. So everyone speaks English. But I definitely
Mm.
wanted to bring you um, because I've studied with you, I learned from you, went through a long qigong program with you, and went to your home. So I even know this room
Yeah.
where you're sitting right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know the books on your shelf. We drank tea together,
That's
and
right.
yeah, so it's just
Mm.
a lot of good memories. And I think what's
Mm.
alive for people even is
Hmm.
like, what the fuck is qigong, man? Like,
Yeah.
what is it? Is it yoga,
Yeah.
bro? Is that
Yeah.
yoga
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
what's that?
Yeah.
You know that's where we can start, man. Because honestly,
Let's do it. Let's do
qigong
it.
is not yet super on the radar
You're
of
right.
people in Europe. At least that's how I feel.
You're right.
It's slowly coming though. So
You're
yeah, what's
right. Yeah. It's,
your understanding of it?
you know, I like to break it down like this. Qigong is energy cultivation. Qigong is energy cultivation. Everything is energy. And how do you cultivate your energy? Through your breath, through your movement, through your eating, right? Through your habits, right? Through your relationships. There was one of my favorite teachers. He said, Qi Gong is about relationships. And I was like, huh, never heard that. Because
Mhm.
everything is energy. And it's my energetic relationship with you, with this tea. I'm noticing my pattern with money. I'm relating with money like I'm an angry teenager still, even though I have more money than I have more money than I ever had. And I'm like, but I'm still operating from 30 years ago. And I'm like, oh, I'm relating energetically. That's why I'm feeling more stress and resistance because of my energy. It's not the money that's the problem. It's I internally have some old money trauma, right? So qigong, energy cultivation, energy skill, and the only way we develop our energy skill is paying attention every day. So the practice of breath work, meditation, um, moving meditation, and there's a whole like we can go on a whole exciting tour of like different styles of yin meditation, yang meditation, yin movement, yang movement. So if I think about our Western culture, we're very fire, 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 fire. So we want to
Yeah.
do CrossFit and weight lift and drink lots of coffee and have lots of cigarettes and like,
Yeah.
stimulants. And then we
Yeah.
forget, oh, we need to do some slow Tai Chi, Qigong, right? And Tai Chi is in Qigong are like brother, sister. So I feel like the water element, Qigong is this balance of fire and water, right? Am I cultivating too much fire, too much water, too much yin? Now I'm lazy. Too much yang? Now I'm overly stressed out. And so really observing our patterns and habits is a way of, oh, like this is how I'm cultivating energy, conscious or unconscious. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But it's also this answer is also very much you. I feel, in the sense that if you Google qigong, then obviously people will tell you, oh, it's Chinese this and your body this and that. But the way you teach, live, and integrate qigong, also how we experience it at your retreat, on your homeland, is like so much more, so much bigger, like relating with so many more things. Okay, like
Mhm.
also paying attention to my habits and emotions and all these different parts. I
Mm.
totally agree with you. It's all in there, but I don't think it's what people usually would probably associate with it, even if they
You're
have a little
right.
pre-knowledge, right?
You are right. Yeah, yeah. So what would be the common kind of saying? Like, what is Qigong from, like, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah. For those listening now, what do you think Qigong is? What have you heard? What do you know? Um, Another way, I guess, when I was first starting out, was describing it as it's synchronizing your breath, mind, and movement as one.
Yo, yo.
Qigong is synchronizing your breath, mind, and movement as one. That's
Hmm.
that's that's a better essence of what Qigong is. Synchronizing, the breath, movement, and mind as one. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I think you mentioned that also when we were in during the retreat at yours. One definition, not definition, but one image that comes to my mind that resonates with me also is like this uniting heaven and earth within the human body. So like the yang part, consciousness, masculine, like consciousness,
Mm.
subtle. I cannot touch it, but it's there, right? And then yin, female, body, earth coming together. So embodied spirituality, that's how I like to put it, in the sense that we're not just praying and astral projecting the fuck out of this place, but we're
Yeah.
also in our bodies. We're still in our bodies. And we use
Mm-hmm.
both. We use both. It's like an
Hallelujah.
integrated technology for
I
me.
love that. And embodied spirituality.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah, brother.
Hallelujah. Yeah. Yeah, man. How did you like how did Qigong come into your life? What did it do to you? And I
Mm,
mean, you just
mm,
mentioned you drank this cup of tea and you were brought back to your master's place like 17 years ago.
yeah.
It was a friggin' long
Mm-hmm.
time, right? So like brought you into this world and
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
your
Oh,
journey in
thank
a
you for
nutshell,
asking.
perhaps?
So, my first introduction to Qigong was a big workshop, about 300 or 400 people at University of Berkeley. and I didn't know what the fuck Qi Gong was. I was 24 years old, working as a manager at a clothing store, like, Abercrombie and Fitch or some shit, just
No
graduated
way.
college, and I used to read this magazine called What is Enlightenment? That magazine and another magazine called Light of Consciousness. I used to read these in the back of the stock room with all the teenagers up front. I'd be the manager in the back reading, about enlightenment and shit. And so I'm reading there, and I'm like, 4-day miracle making and, Qi Gong. I was like, what the fuck is Qi Gong? What's it? And it was like $75 for 4 days. I was like, dang, I gotta try. There's gonna be something in that. So I had to
Hmm.
change my life. I had to change my life. And so I played football for 10 years, and that was my spirituality. I loved sport. I love movement.
Right.
And that, just to give that context, like, movement helped me heal my depression as a kid, being in nature, right? And we talk about the Qigong masters, the energy masters, they studied nature, right? They move with the animals and so forth. So from a very young age, I was like, I'm here to move my body. I'm here to, like, awaken my senses. So then fast forward, when I'm 24, we're doing this qigong, and I'm like, whoa, it's like they're playing the ancient flute Chinese music or whatever. And I was like, and then all of a sudden there's some new age music, and I'm like, ooh, whoa, this is like I'm just like feeling like immersed.
Hmm.
And can you
Hmm.
imagine, like, hundreds of people all doing the same movement at the same time? I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, I was just brought back to the temples. I was like,
Hmm.
wow, I've never done this before, but I've totally done this before, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
This strangely unfamiliar familiar feeling, huh?
yeah, yeah. And that, to
Yeah.
me, I feel like in all my studies with all my teachers and masters, like, that timeless dimension, like, we are a timeless soul that has lived many lifetimes, lived many lifetimes. And so in this life, I feel like many of us are recovering these awakening codes. It's like, so there's something magical that happened when I went to my first Qigong workshop, that codes unlocked for me. I was like, oh yeah, I remember who I am, like, this is why I'm here, to be a light, you know, and whether I teach it or whether it's just like, it doesn't even matter. I just want to be immersed in this practice, and then that led to Qigong Master Peter, who came to who I met, and he said, this is in San Francisco, and he looked me in the eyes like this, and he said, I know you. You're
Whoa.
Shaolin. You have mastered martial arts. You are here to heal in this life. And then he started calling me
Whoa.
Baby Shaolin. He said, welcome, Baby Shaolin. Nice to see you at the beginning of your path in this life. And then he was like, I'm a psychic. And this is this black dude who's living in Thailand, in Taiwan. He's like, oh, I study with these grandmasters, and he was just like downloading me the whole weekend. And there was a moment I remember on day 2 or 3, we're sitting there, and he kept calling me Brick House. He's like, man, you're built like a brick house, because I played football. So I was like 185, thick old neck, And he told me, he
Yo,
said,
you were fucking a machine, man. I've seen old pictures of you, man. Holy shit.
oh. And he said, muscles are insulation for chi. And I was like, whoa. I was just like, like all the light bulbs. I was like, whoa. And then there was a moment where everything got quiet. And I remember that we were looking each other in the eyes, and he was like, when a master transmits chi and helps a student, awaken a part of themselves, it's for good. It's like it's a real thing. And so in that moment, he was looking at me in the eyes, and I didn't notice until he pointed it out that for most of my life, I don't look people in the eyeballs. I look at them at the third eye or the bridge of their nose. I'm actually not. And then he went like this. He was like, he like guided my eyes into his eyes like that. Right? It was like, and I was like, he said, like, what's happening now? And he just stared at me, and I was like, what is happening? I was like, okay, I'm not gonna close my eyes. I'm gonna like look him in the eyeballs.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And then I felt myself like, and then there was a moment where I just felt like this, almost like a warmth in my brain, and kind of like my hair started tingling, like it was on fire. And then I kind of felt my spine. I just kind of was like, ooh, things are warm and kind of toasty inside. And And then I kind of closed my eyes and I kind of sat back and I was like, all right, thank you. And I was thank you. I don't know what just happened, but thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
was a fascinating experience. That then he was like, you're meant to do this, and if you want to study with Dr. Jerry Allen Johnson. If you want,
Well, that
he said
name
you're
rings a
here to,
bell.
yeah, he said you're here to heal with your mind and your hands. That's what he said. You're here to heal with your mind and your hands. I remember those words. Yeah, he said you mastered martial arts. You're here to heal with your mind. So anyway, it's funny. I haven't recalled that story in a long, long, long time.
Powerful. Okay. And then you did, in fact, study with Professor
Yeah,
Johnson also, right? Because
yeah, yeah.
why does that name ring a bell? Because you gave me his books. I was like,
Mm.
this is so much stuff. Wow. How can one human being possibly know and understand so much? How is that possible?
Totally, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting for those who are listening, paying attention to those synchronicities, so like when you spend 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, in a spiritual practice, an embodied spiritual practice, right? Breathwork, Qi Gong, yoga for sure. And I want to break down today, can we please break down the difference between Qi Gong and yoga and the different styles? Because there is crossover, which is
Oh, let's
important.
go. Hmm.
Like that seems like such an important topic because there's a
Right.
yogification of Qigong happening, right?
Oh. Hmm.
And or just like it's like strength training is
Sugarcane.
not Qigong,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yoga is not Qigong, but there are elements of energetic cultivation inside of stretching and inside of strength training, right? So I can't wait to write some books on this shit. But anyway, let's we're getting all fired up.
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead. Keep flowing, man. Because that is a huge topic and always the first question. I know yoga, so then what is Qigong? Is that the same
Yeah.
thing, just in Chinese? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So I just want to finish the thread. So we're gonna go there, but let's go back to the synchronicity. So those
oh
who are
yeah,
listening or
yeah.
watching, synchronicity is key because once you start to build up a new energy, right, through your breath, through your movement practice, right? Those are the two primary embodied practices: breath and movement, and sound, right? Toning, chanting, singing, right? Um, so when you do a practice from any religion that you connect to sincerely from your heart, that tunes you into your soul, that tunes you into that divine frequency, right? And the earth, right? There's a quality there. All of a sudden you become a little brighter like the sun, right? You become more like a instead of muddy waters, you're more clear, you're more clean, right? And so through that spiritual embodiment practice, your intentions become a little more stronger, a little more clear. And so as you become aware of I thought this thing, and then this other thing happened. I was wondering about this, and all of a sudden it's manifesting, right? But also some of your worries, also like I was kept worrying about, and then that thing happened too, right? So there's a quality of like once we begin to practice this embodied spirituality, I really like that phrase actually. Through energy cultivation, you start to notice the patterns of how you're creating your reality. And if you want to become more flexible in your mind, become more flexible in your body, right? If you want to become more fluid in your mind and your energy, become more fluid in your body, right? Because we as a Western culture live in our fucking heads and we think because we read all the books and listen to all the podcasts, we're embodied. It's like no, like you must and or a great analogy is sex. It's like you can read about sex, you can talk about sex, you can dream about it, but then you can actually do it. You can actually engage in the sexual act itself. And I
Right.
think a lot of spirituality nowadays is too much theory and mind and not enough actual practice.
Yes.
Actual practice, and that's what I love about Dr. Johnson. He's like, the practices work. You just do the practices and find a practice that work for you, that you like. Spend 5 minutes, then that turns into 10 minutes, turns into an hour. Don't do all those advanced practices because you think you're going to get some special abilities.
Snap.
So there's a relaxation. I'm realizing the path of spirituality is more about letting go than trying to add on, right? And there's a really amazing book, Spiritual Materialism, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, that I highly recommend, by Chogyam Trungpa, for our Western friends. And I read it and I was just like, I'm a spiritual materialist.
What is a
And
spiritual materialist? Can you define that for a sec?
sure,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's this Western concept of grasping for things to edify the ego, right? It's like, wow, look at how good I am. I can meditate so perfectly, and I'm the most calm human on the planet, right? There's this edification of, but we haven't shed our shadow patterns or emotions, So a spiritual practice is actually meant to strip us down, to clear the falsities and clear the puffiness of our chests, and our delusions, And so the first lecture that Chogyam Trungpa gave in the 70s was, a bunch of Western folks in Colorado. And he's like, the first topic, I usually don't teach this, but its requirement is about spiritual materialism, because these practices are not meant to boost your ego. And now you have the special mala beads, and
Hmm.
you've read all the Buddhist books or the Tibetan books or whatever, and now you feel you're a scholar, you know. And so this is not scholarship. This is not mind mental masturbation.
Very good word indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this stripping away. And even in my own practice, I see, Dorje, there's still a grasping sometimes in my own practice. I'm like, oh, I want to do all the cool movements. And like, I injured my knee. I injured my knee because I keep wanting to do more cool Shaolin. And I'm like, now I'm forced, like, no, David, more yin, more soft Qigong, David, more soft Qigong. And now, and it's my right knee, and the right knee is the
Hmm.
masculine aspect of our ego. The left knee
Yes.
is the feminine aspect of our ego. So I'm like, yeah, I'm pushing too hard, because I live in Western culture, and I'm launching year 1, 2, and 3 Qigong programs and masters and retreats, and I'm like stressed the F out. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take time to be my boy Dorje
Yo.
and just have some tea.
Amen. Amen.
Just
Amen.
relax.
And
Yeah.
I'm so glad
So
you're here.
yeah. So thank you, my brother. Yeah. I feel the love.
Hmm.
Every time I get on with you, man, I feel our Tibetan heritage. I feel the lamas of love behind
The
this.
llama, the llamas of love.
I feel I
Yeah.
feel all the lamas just so happy and ringing their little temple bells and all the
Hmm.
colorful flag. I just feel
Mm.
so blessed in your presence, man. Really.
Bro, that is absolutely what's it called? Reciprocal? No, same on
Yes.
my
Yeah. Same.
side.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Same.
I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting because we met. Let's call it this time.
Yeah.
This
This
time
time.
we met first through online, right? Through
That's
me
right.
joining, me researching, in fact, Tibetan breathwork, Tomo breathing. I came
Yeah.
across your videos, started
Yeah.
practicing with that because I was in the phase of researching all kinds of breathwork techniques.
Yeah.
Through that, coming to other programs of you, starting to study some qigong with you, and then basically hopping into live classes with you. And all the time, like from the beginning, felt like, yo, there's a connection here. I get along well with this
Yeah.
dude. I wanna spend more time with you, right? And then when we met in like a real life during the retreat at your place, it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's
Yeah.
real, man,
Yeah.
it's real.
The spiritual brotherhood.
Yeah, man,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
real.
yeah, it's
So let's
amazing.
let's let's dive into the difference between yoga and qigong, shall we?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And please also let's also dive into these ideas of because you just spoke about Shaolin because Shaolin
Yeah.
qigong and oftentimes is like hard style qigong, but
Yeah.
then there are also
Yeah.
yin practices like soft style
Yeah.
qigongs, and that it can be so overwhelming and confusing to people
Yeah.
because I believe there are
Yes.
thousands of different
You're right.
qigongs, right? That's
You're
why it's
right.
so hard to define what it actually
That's
is.
right. That's right. Yes. So let's do
Yeah.
that. Let's define the nuances of qigong first. So qigong, you have three primary schools, right? You have martial school, right? There's thousands of martial forms to make you stronger, more explosive, ligaments, tendons, and Shaolin is an example. And there's Northern Shaolin, Southern, there's like, all this, and then you get into a whole host of like, Bagua and other things I don't even know about, right? So there's martial, right? So there's categories of Qigong and martial. Then there's medical. right? The medical Qigong is healing the root of dis-ease, where there's a lack of Qi flow, right? So I studied 3 years of medical Qigong and healing cancer, right? Like healing major issues through sound vibration, through understanding
Whoa.
the emotional context from 40 years ago, from childhood trauma or from past life or ancestral trauma that now manifests as liver cancer or lung cancer or breast cancer, right? So it's all soft qigong, but all of the best qigong doctors were also martial arts when they were young. They all
Interesting,
were
eh?
doing martial
Interesting.
art when they're
Yeah.
young. So
Yep.
so the importance of training the Jing, Jing means physical energy essence, right? The importance of building a strong body so you can have an insulation for chi, right? Like, so like the hard qigong for me was football. Hard qigong when I was a kid, I fucking trained way harder than Shaolin. I was like, bah, like my body's a missile, like I was 10 years, 10 fucking years of busting my ass, like, and it was so hard. And I learned something so deep inside of my bones that you can't discover any other way, right? So the martial is the hard, and CrossFits, it's a hard, but it becomes draining, right? It
Hmm.
becomes too draining, right? Especially as you age. So we have martial, we have medical, which is all about healing, right? Getting to the root of disease. So that's more soft qigong. And so the soft qigong comes primarily from a Taoist, a lot more Taoist practices. So qigong was developed from primarily Taoist and Buddhist, right? And that's a whole nother conversation, right? But you have
Right.
the so let's come back to we have martial, we have medical, and we have spiritual qigong, and the goal is enlightenment. The goal is I'm cleansing my body, my channels, my organs, and now that I'm seeing from the West, we're cleansing the nerve plexuses of trauma, right? When we do all that qigong tapping, right? And now tapping for somatics is all the rage,
Yep.
and the ancient
Yeah.
practice of slapping and tapping is
Yeah.
translates as pai da. Pai da, is like slap and tap. And another translation of that in Chinese is to beat out the demons, right? So you're like pow, pow,
Oh,
pow, pow, pow.
okay.
So you're cleansing the blood. You're cleansing the blood from deep within. And after you do, and so this is a more martial approach, but you can see how martial also it's very healing to sweat and sometimes, and it's very healing to uh, purge, right? So we can also break down qi into purging practices, tonifying or strengthening practices, and then harmonizing practices, right? So it's nice. Things work in threes. It's like, well, the hard qigong, all the sweating is more purging, and you're building muscle, but at a cost, you know. And then you go to the more tonifying practices like the 5 elements, the immortal form, and there's many beautiful soft forms, Sanjiao, there's these many thousands of soft qigongs, and most people in the West only see the soft qigong,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
much. And it's
Yeah.
like I'm realizing how important the hard qigong is in balance, you know.
Hmm.
So spiritual qigong can weave into all of that, right? So for
Yes.
me, all my movement practices are spiritual. I be in the gym, it's my iron temple. I'm just like,
Boom. Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Hmm.
I be with the mace, doing my
Hmm.
shower with the mace. So anyway,
Hmm.
does that help? Does that help break down the three
Absolutely.
primary,
Totally.
right,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's
schools?
that's that's so well explained with martial, with medical, and with spiritual, because that really puts it like into perspective, like the different streams that we have,
Yeah,
right? And obviously the
yeah,
martial qigongs, for example, like last year I was training Iron Shirt qigong with Shifu Yanlei. It's like, okay, you
yeah.
have like metal rods that you bang against your body and you use a brick and harden your body with it. It's like fucking intense. Deep stances,
Mm,
sweating,
mm,
breathing, like whoa, tension. I mean, most
yeah,
people look at this, they wouldn't think this is Qigong. I remember last year I went to the Shaolin Temple Europe for summer
yeah,
camp, which was freaking
yeah.
amazing, by the way. And
I want to go someday, okay? That's on my
you,
bucket list. I want to go with you.
you, let's do it. Let's do it, bro. Um, anyway, they said, okay, a sample day could look like this, and I think they had an old description in there because it said like something like morning meditation, Qi Gong, and then Shaolin exercise practice. So some people came and arrived in their fluffy Qi Gong clothes, and they were expecting, okay, let's do a little breathing and
Uh-huh.
easy peasy.
Uh-huh.
But dude, it was like 6 hours a day friggin' conditioning, right? And people were like,
Conditioning.
oh shit, where am I? What's happening?
It's like a boot camp. You're like, I didn't
Yeah,
sign up
yeah.
for. I didn't think I was doing a boot camp.
Yeah, I have my nice silk robe on, and now they make me do a horse stance like till I shiver and sweat. That was fucking
That
hilarious.
is too
Yeah,
funny. I
it was
bet.
really fun.
I bet some people left. I bet a few people
They did.
left.
A few people did leave. Yes, a few people did
Yeah, but
leave. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you're speaking to that because like I injured myself doing a 25-minute Shaolin power workout, and I was like, I'm not
Yo.
used to doing high repetition deep squats, because like I move my
Mm-hmm.
body a lot. I work out, I train,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just
Mm-hmm.
one specific position that I was just
Mm-hmm.
doing too many too fast that like my knee was
Mm-hmm.
like, because
Yeah.
I tore my ACL in football. And I was like,
Yes.
oh man, I wonder how many people accidentally hurt themselves trying to do some advanced qigong or hard qigong that they didn't know they were signing up for. I mean, it did say power, so I knew that. I was like, I'm powerful. I can handle
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Mm-hmm.
I got humbled. Like, yeah, you're not supposed to do that many reps that fast, David.
Not anymore, maybe, right?
That's
And
what it is. Not anymore. Not anymore. And it's like I could
because
have done 5 of them instead of 50.
yeah,
5 to
because
10.
because I'm sure your muscle memory and your mind says, okay, I used to do that, like, got it. And then they're
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
oh shit, but that was maybe 10 years ago. Maybe now world has changed a little bit, right?
That's right.
Um,
That's right. Yeah. So I'm glad we're talking about this. Yeah. So what else
yeah,
do you feel? So we talked about the hard qigong,
right.
but maybe we move into talking about what soft qigong is, or some of the
Yeah,
benefits and kind of what that looks like.
yeah, yeah, beautiful,
Um.
beautiful.
Okay. So the soft qigong and coming back to application, right? The hard qigong
Hmm.
is to strengthen, to
Hmm.
purge, right? To get the
Hmm.
shit out, right? And to
Hmm.
become, this like iron, it's like so that's
Hmm.
we call that warrior training. I like coming back to archetype. The soft
Yeah,
qigong is healer, is for the healer.
right.
So after you train your body, right, in your teenage and 20 years, in your 30s, it's time to heal. It's time to heal all the physical and emotional wounds. So the soft qigong helps us to nourish our organs, right? So the subtle twisting through the subtle stretching, we're getting this
So
the
good.
opening of the lymphatic system, right? The lymphatics are under
Yes.
here.
Hmm.
So after 30 minutes of soft qigong, you have as much blood flow, in circulation as a 30-minute jog, but without the drain on your adrenal glands. That's key because when you're running,
Yes.
the
Hmm.
adrenals, you're sweating, you're huffing and puffing, right? So when you do
Hmm.
30 minutes of soft qigong, I literally feel like a warm elixir in my spine, like in my aura, like in my viscera, right? As they call it. I'm like, ooh, what is that? And it's like this kind of silky, milky, like nectary energy that you don't get any other way. Right? But what's nice is when you do a little hard qigong, right? Even just 5-10 minutes of something to get that vigorous qi, especially in the springtime, right? To
Yeah.
do some punches or do something to get the qi rev, kind of rev the engine a little bit, right? You do 5-10 minutes of that, 15 minutes of that, then you go into your soft qigong. Now you got more to work with. You're like, ooh, So I'm instead
Absolutely.
of I just started to perspire. Now it's time to go to my soft qigong because I don't want to sweat it out. I want to bring all that back in. So that soft qigong is more internal training, where the hard qi is more external, right? Projecting the qi through the But it's like, oh, I want to bring that qi in to a degree, right? So this kind of idea of external and internal, internal being yin, external being yang, um,
Yes.
cultivating fire versus cultivating more water, more slow.
Mhm.
Um,
If I may add to that, because that's just
Please.
some recent experiences. Because in the last 2 months that I spent in Thailand, I had the great opportunity to train more, also with the Shaolin guys from the temple, and
Ooh,
go
yeah. Tell
go
me
really
more.
go deep like into their type of qigong practices, different ones. I mean,
Mm.
still also there are many different ones. And what I noticed
Yeah.
is also like an interesting way that how you can use hard style qigong, like especially deep stances, intense stances, or keeping your arms or your body in a very uncomfortable position and holding it. And they call it burning. You burn, you burn, you burn,
Yeah.
because what happens when you burn, the first thing is within your body, within your mind, resistance emerges. Like, I don't want to do this. This is painful. Fuck this shit. I don't want to do it. And then you relax into it. Instead of fighting, you go through it, and then the body starts to shiver, and you start to release, and you can use it to open the body. So like there are
Yeah.
different ways of using the body, essentially, like the soft qigong sometimes, and also the tai chi. When I'm like very stressed, for example, or my body feels very tense, and then I do the super soft stuff, I can't feel it. I cannot feel
That's
it, like
right.
the flow or whatever, right? I need to
No, yeah.
first open this old motherfucker. I need to open,
Yes.
right? And then sometimes the burning, the
Yes.
intense, the sweating, the huffing and puffing, and now, okay, now I feel better. Then you
Yes.
stretch, 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 and then go into the soft qigong, and suddenly, yo,
Yes.
all
Yes.
right, beam me up,
That's the
Scotty.
formula. That's the formula. Beam me up, Scotty
Right?
formula.
Yeah,
I love how you describe that. I
yeah.
really totally resonate with everything you said. Yeah. Yeah, especially for thinking about, practicals for the people listening. It's like when I'm stressed, when I'm tense, when I have more yang qi, right? A little more fire energy, like the middle of my day, I'm not doing soft qigong. I'm going to do some hard qigong or go for a run. I'll go through a 15-minute run
Mhm.
through some stances, let out some like, like, or some, do some push-ups, some squats, some lunges, something, like a 15-minute, 30-minute. And then
Mhm.
I'll do like 5 minutes of just like, just like kind of let it all settle in, and then I'm like way more centered because I've expressed that stressful energy, right? The adrenaline and cortisol had a place to move, instead of it being under the surface. And then I'm just like, well, I'm trying to do slow qigong, but I'm stressed out. I'm like still in my head because I got a lot of emails to
Yeah,
write.
yeah,
I got
yeah,
all these
yeah.
emails to write, David. Why are you doing moving so slow?
Move it faster. Achieve relaxation faster.
No, but that's a
Yeah,
great point, and I think
yeah.
that's why I realize with the school, this Noble Movement Academy that I'm, building and co-creating, with people like yourself, is the requirement for a little hard qigong in everybody's life.
Yo.
A
Hmm.
little sweating, and a
Hmm.
little like heart that especially for the Western mind that is really stressed out, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you become so present when you're burning. You become so present when you're met with that challenge of like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here, even though it's uncomfortable. So there's an activation of our spirit that happens. That now our spirit is in our body again instead of in our head and like, oh, I got too many things to do and I'm jumping from here to here and here. And now I'm moving all slow, but I'm still like racing in here. But I was like,
yeah,
even though I'm moving slow. So
yeah.
the hard qigong, or even like that's why yoga is so awesome, right? So let's kind of shift gears into the difference between yoga and qigong. Let's have that conversation.
Sure.
So one of the original terms for qigong, before it was called qigong, was Daoyin. Daoyin. And so in the ancient scrolls from like 214 AD, they show all these 64 postures, and these Daoyin, and Daoyin translates as leading and guiding, right? Leading and guiding qi through the extremities. Kind of in a nutshell, it's leading and guiding qi through the extremities. So you had um, you know, uh, yoga that was being developed, and I'm not a buff on yoga history so much, but but anyway, you have this quality of stretching, right? Yoga to open the channels for
Yes,
meditation, right?
yes.
To sweat and clear out the impurities through stretching. But there's a spiritual component. Yoga means union, right? Union with God or
Exactly.
creator.
Mhm.
So there's this union, of so the quality of when I coming back to the original definition of qigong, our working definition is synchronizing body, mind, and movement, or body, movement, mind, breath, that whatever that is. Yoga has a lot of those same principles, right? You're stretching, you're breathing, you're moving this way, your mind is right here, right? And then, so what I've noticed with yoga is it's more linear, it's more straight lines, whereas Qigong is more circular and more spirals and more like natural, more functional. So Qigong you can use, and like you can apply it to fighting, you can apply it to athletics. Like doing Qigong made me a better athlete, right? And so I can walk better with Qigong. I can move better. I can become more, right? Whereas yoga, I just felt like I was getting more flexible, right? But I wasn't also in yoga, there's not as much directing the chi through certain organs or certain channels, right? The understanding of the energy meridians through, like animal form, like a hard qigong where you're holding, you're like holding a deep posture and the hip flexors are opening, and I'm starting to and then all of a sudden all this emotion sometimes happens, or pain, but there's not a forcing, right? There's not a forcing. It's just like, oh, I'm stretching here, and as I breathe here for 5 breaths, oh, now I can go a little further. Oh, wow, oh, something just unlocked. Oh my God. And you can feel the warmth, right? You can feel the channel, the fascia, when you put the breath in there. So that's what I like about Qigong. I'm putting the breath through my organs, or through my liver meridian, my gallbladder, through my glutes and my ass, and like down. And I'm directing the demons out,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's I would say a primary difference between Qigong and yoga is, with Qigong, you're learning to direct Qi and harness Qi and move Qi. Whereas yoga, you're just kind of holding a stretch and breathing. There's a awareness there, but there's less about like, well, let's move it and let's utilize it. And then let's come back to Qigong feels like a container. It's like, oh, then we come back to containing the energy and building the Qi, right? Building the Qi. Yoga, there's not so much focus on building the Qi, right? So that's my perspective, and there's so many styles of yoga. This is a vast overgeneralization. So, you
Obviously,
know,
yeah, yeah, but still. Yeah, but I mean, we have to start with an approximation and starting to put
yeah.
things a little more into categories. I think what's definitely pretty obvious, I believe, is that yoga depends on the style again. But let's also maybe make it a little more concise, like the asana part, meaning the posture part of yoga, because yoga is
There
so
you
much
go.
more. It's breathing, it's cleansing, it's meditation, like so many things in
Yeah.
Ashtanga yoga, for example. But in the asana practice, a lot of the practices are, let's say, more static. So you sit, you hold a position for a long
Mm.
time. And what I notice in yoga, at least that's the question that I learned to
Mm.
ask myself, is a lot of the question that I can ask myself is, how much can I surrender into this position? Like, because I'm
Mm.
here and it's like, oh, I'm gonna break my spine. Okay, how much can I surrender into it? Right?
I like that.
But it's a little static in the sense that the initial idea, it comes from
Mm.
people that then sit down and meditate and try not to move that much because they don't want to stir
Mm.
that energy so much unless they start to work
Mm.
with breath and then kundalini and this and that. But
Mm.
before, it's like, okay, how can I prepare my body to sit like a mountain, right?
That's right.
And then in qigong, we have this practice that is mostly done standing. And then when
Mm-hmm.
qigong flows into taiji, we have the translation from sitting practice to standing practice to walking and moving practice,
Yeah.
which is basically, I think, what you meant, like, oh, this made me a better athlete, right? Like, how can I put
Mm-hmm.
my meditative state like into a standing
Mm.
position, into walking, into my daily life?
Mm.
That's what I find so amazing
I
about it.
like that.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. I like the
yeah,
distinction you made between just more static postures, typically like on the ground, or some form of like you're using the ground much more in yoga,
yeah. Very
than in
grounded.
very
Yeah,
grounded, yeah. And
yeah.
then you sit and you meditate or chant or something like this.
Hmm.
Whereas qigong, most of it is kind of standing. You're more of a standing. It's kind of it's just traditionally a standing
Yes,
practice or exercise. And
yes.
then, so breaking down that nuance of static and dynamic, right? So from the
Hmm.
medical qigong textbooks, you've got your ultimate static practices are silent stillness meditation, right? It's like yin within yin, because the mind is also soft and the body is also soft. So for those of you who are Westerners who try to do that mindfulness meditation and just kind of be in that um, noticing the breath. And it's like that would be considered a more like ultimate yin kind of energy practice. I'm just becoming empty, right? But that's not for everybody. So like, if I do that, I will go crazy. I need to like exercise. I need to. So then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is the yang within yang, which is like martial art, where it's like my mind is focused on breaking this brick, and I've conditioned my body over and over to run the muscles and the energy. And now when I go like this, it's the energy that breaks it, and my hand, touches it. Or I blow out the candle, and it's like yang within yang. And then there's the middle ground, right? Like where like Tai Chi, whereas I'm no mind, but I'm moving. And no mind, I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling, I'm grasping the sparrow's tail. My
Yo.
mind is yin, but my movement is yang, I'm right? Even seated qigong, I'm sitting down doing my form. So then there's so it's fun to see this kind of like arc of energy cultivation practices, and so it's just fun. I love that we're exploring this. So I try my best to come back to, well, what's practical in your life? So now, one of my favorite forms of qigong is dishwashing qigong, right? So my
Yeah.
mind is clear. I'm just like, and I'm breathing into my belly. And you know what I noticed? When I'm doing chores, sometimes I'm not balanced. I'm leaning on my left leg or my right leg, and I'm like, why am I like rushing to do this? It's like, center yourself, aim your dantian into your food, take some 3 deep breaths, and then chop and chop and chop. And I'm like, no mind. I'm like, okay, can I just be in, instead of, I think, there's always a resistance to doing chores until there's not anymore. It's like, oh yeah, this is my highest spiritual practice, is taking out the trash, doing the dishes.
Your wife certainly likes to hear that.
That's right. Yeah. Qigong for a happy life, happy wife is clean.
Yes.
Do your best to clean and tidy, the magic of tidying. Like, so that's a form of, Qigong.
Yes.
Right? The
Yes.
household chores, the chopping wood, the carrying water. So my mind can be still while I can still be doing these things, And I used to see my dad, man. I think it's important
So
that,
profound. Yeah.
we let's all just take a breath, actually. Let's just breathe in together. Let's do a little Qigong together. So let's take 5 deep breaths. Feel your time spot tall. Inhale through the nose. Right now. Open the lungs big. Exhale with a little sound. Clearing tension from our body and our mind. Breathing in, stillness, vigor, courage. Exhale, letting go. Clearing the excess fire from our mind. In, feel the belly, feel the lungs. Relax the shoulders. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale through the nose. Feel the belly, feel the lungs. Grounding down, backing down into our belly, into our leg. 1 more time. Breathing in with a little sound. Clearing the fire, and exhale, grounding down and back. Down and back. Now place 1 hand on your belly and take 3 more breaths in stillness. Be as still as you can. Noticing your physiology from breathing. So going from a warrior's breath with sound to a belly breath with more stillness. And feel each of us like a pillar of light across the planet. Feeling ourselves more capable, more ready for life, more safe in our body. So to me, energy cultivation is about creating safety in our body through our breath. And then take 3 more breaths, bring your hand to your heart. Feel the warmth of your hand on your heart. And we know now scientifically, 2 minutes of hand on the heart brings us into heart coherence. And the research from heart math. So anytime you're stressed, the Qigong practice of a hand on the heart and the belly for 2 minutes. And if you're really stressed, you do the ha, make a sound, right? So give yourself permission to make a little sound here. We'll do this few breaths here. Inhale to the nose, feel the belly, feel the heart, little sound. Ha. It can be a a ah, whatever sound feels right. Breathing in through the nose, purging into the lungs and heart. Exhale. Ah. 3 more times, nice and big. Inhaling. Ah. Clearing the stress from our heart, relaxing. 2 more. Oh. That sound helps purge the heart of excess mind, mental chatter. 1 more. Soft and smooth. Oh. And now breathe in stillness, breathing into the belly like a balloon, noticing where your breath is. Now breathing as quiet as you can, tongue on the upper palate. Take about 3 to 5 breaths here. Observe your physical body, your sensations. Notice and feel. This is the somatic practice of embodiment. And it's in every wisdom tradition. And so smiling to your heart, your belly, your soul. Right? There's so many parts of ourself, right? And so we call it the 3 treasures, the head, the heart, and the belly. And this feeling for 1 more breath, this unification of our mind, our heart, and our belly, these 3 intelligence centers. And then when you're ready, massage the belly or the heart. I feel called to massage my face and head, so you can rub your hands. And then massage the face a few times. The Shen, which translates as heart mind, is like, just helping to relax, give ourselves permission to relax. So going from the yang or through the yang into the yin. So there's this concept of in healing trauma, it's like you can't go around the shadow, you got to go through it. You don't want to go around the practice, you want to go through it, right? Whatever is challenging, like with my wife or my daughter, it's like I can pretend it's not happening, or I can make excuses, or I can run away into the closet and do my own Qi Gong, or I can realize the Qi Gong, the energy is here for me to breathe and be present with my daughter. And like, where am I triggered, and why is she, and how do I hold patience for this child who doesn't know how to regulate her nervous system yet? She does not have the skill yet of regulating her nervous. So how can I be that nervous system regulation for her through taking 5 deep breaths? And I've done both. I've done where I was like, if you're a parent and you have screamed at your kids, forgive yourself. It's part of, you're going to scream at your kids. Okay. And do you know how to then come back and repair that and say, you know what? I realized I got upset. I got frustrated or angry, and I apologize. It's not your fault that I couldn't handle my nervous system and emotions, right? And so whether it's a friend, a boss, a child, a family member that's triggering us, do I have the skill to somatically and then express, actually, I disagree with you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
From love, I say, no, little child, you will not have ice cream at 10 in the morning, right? But then she starts to scream at me, and if I'm not careful, she's like, I want it now. And if she continues to go on and I don't set a boundary, it's like, you will stop now, or here's what's going to happen. We're going to set the boundary. There's a boundary that has to happen. I will throw out the ice cream, right? There's a consequence to this. And if that doesn't happen, right, and this can be anything with any relationship, there's a quality of expressing ourselves when there's an intensity of emotion, or when there's a trigger. It's like, how do I express myself and clearly communicate and not react? Because I've definitely reacted and just like, blown up on my daughter, and here I am, the Qigong master. I'm like, and then there's the self-judgment that can come of like, I'm a bad parent, I'm this and that. It's like, no, you're not a bad parent. So coming back to you and us is like, our actions are not us, right? Our identity, who you are, who I am at a soul level, is not my actions or my behaviors, right? We are not our actions, our emotions, or our behaviors, right? And through these practices of breath work, of embodied spirituality, we learn to love this essence underneath, and we learn to calm our nervous system at will. That's what a master is. I know how to calm and then how often am I practicing that? How often am I using that breath practice that I do every morning? But then it goes out the window every time I'm in a stressful situation, right?
Real
So
talk,
that's
yeah.
where that's real talk, right? That's where the rubber meets the road, and like, am I embodying it? Am I holding a space for myself and for this person in front of me without judgment, or without like, no, it's your fault, right? I call it shame and blame. I think more than half of people just go into victimization, right? And it's blame or shame, or there's just this energy, and I've lived in victimization at various times, right? It's like, you might be a victim in certain parts of your life, right? Well, in my relationship with money, or my relationship with whatever it is, right? There's a quality of like, where am I empowered in my relationships? Where do I feel grounded in my relationships? Where do I feel disempowered, like I'm giving, because that's Qigong. That's relationship.
First of all, thank you for guiding and for throwing this little practice in there, like as a direct embodied test of the theory that we hypothesized on earlier. But this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is how it's done. This is the practical application of it. Because what good for is my spiritual practice if I blow up into my family's face once they trigger me? Because they do trigger me all the fucking time. And the same happens in business. In every single human relation, as long as somebody is decently close enough to us, or doesn't even have to be a close person to us, everyone can trigger us all the fucking time. Now, how do we relate, and how can I stay grounded in my center and act from love and light and like truth, right? And not from acquired personality of trauma and programming. So
Yeah.
This is so powerful. So thank you for putting this in there, because for me, and that's also why I said earlier, your answer was so you. Because when you Google Qigong, or you look into a Qigong book, that's not usually what you feel, but this is the real world application if you're not a friggin' monk in a cave. But this is how do I use that shit like in my daily life, And
that's right.
And that is so important. That's why I spoke about embodied spirituality. It's not a concept. It doesn't only work when I sit in the cave. It has to work in real life. Otherwise, what's the value of it anyhow, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And that's definitely something I really learned also from you, and how you bring so many different practices into this entire Qigong game. Maybe one last sentence also to wrap this up, because it's been on my mind and I don't want to forget it. Just to wrap up this idea of yoga, Qigong, what are the differences? To me, they're brothers and sisters, really. Like they want the same thing. They come from the same parents anyway. It's just different cultural flavors, and I really and I mean, there are obviously also yoga practices that are flowy, so we don't want to discount that by any way. There's nothing better or worse. It's just brothers and sisters. But I
Beautiful.
really loved what you said about like yoga postures are oftentimes a little linear, like
Yeah.
geometry. And then in
Yeah.
Qigong, to add it to geometry, we also have spirals and
Yeah.
circles
Yeah.
and circularity. And like, wow, I'm like fucking imitating the
Yeah.
movements of the elements and of the universe
Yeah.
and the galaxy
Yeah.
in my body, right? Like, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just wanted to
Yeah. Thank you
throw
for
it into
sharing
the
that.
ring as well. Yeah, yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah, this is so fun, man. Yeah, this is so fun. And I'm curious, just the audience here, like, are they able to comment or, like how many of y'all are familiar with Qigong or yoga? How many of y'all have a yoga practice or a Qigong practice or meditation practice already? Like, what are y'all up to? What are your embodied spiritual practices?
that would be absolutely lovely if you shared that under the recording, because there's unfortunately not a live recording, so we don't have
Oh yeah,
live interaction
totally.
with people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But in the
This,
recording, like that's cool because then
yeah,
we can come back. We
yeah,
can do a follow-up class,
exactly. Yeah.
because that's what I'm all about is like, practical magic. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a practicality about energy
Mm-hmm.
cultivation that I really feel everyone can embody, and it can change everyone's life in a really simple and profound way. Um, and yeah, I feel like that's good. Yeah, I don't feel we need to talk about the yogification of qigong too much anymore in this moment.
Yeah. No, I think that's lovely and beautiful and in a good spot. Um, maybe perhaps because we were talking about the practicality, or you brought it up and
Yeah.
you guided us through this very real life practice. Like you also mentioned nervous system regulation. You mentioned your baby daughter or your
Mm,
baby boy, they may not know how to self-regulate. That's why they just blow
yeah.
up into your face, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and nervous system regulation, like science and Western
Yeah.
society, they start to explore this now, but in Qigong, it's all been there for thousands of years, right? These tools. What
Yeah.
are your
Yeah.
favorite handful
Mm-hmm.
or three, whatever, biggest tools that you'll love to use on a
Mm-hmm.
daily basis for a
Nervous
derailed nervous
system.
system, which is usually stress, right? We can probably put it down to stress. What
Mm-hmm.
do you
Yeah.
always do?
Great
What's good
question.
for everyone?
Yeah, great question. So the practice of hand on the heart and the belly, right? It's like we're giving ourselves a
Hmm.
hug. 2 minutes of that, right? And 2 to 3 minutes, it's our nervous system will start to come into balance. And we think about the baby, right? The baby learns how to self-regulate when they're crying, when the mother or the father is holding the baby, right? And so the quality of just holding ourselves and breathing, numero uno, right? Now, however, if you're stressed out, I'm like, I can't access this. I can't, so then I shake it, right? So I stand up, you stand up,
Yeah.
feet shoulder width, and you shake it for 2 minutes. You just shake out all the tension, literally, all the fascia, you're writing or you're on calls or whatever you're doing, right? You just start to shake out the fascia, or if you're an athlete, that shaking helps clear all the acid from working out, helps your soreness, your stiffness, right?
Hmm.
So 2 minutes, 3 minutes of just the shaking, the bouncing. I guess this is more bouncing, right? Um, so that's the second one, right? And then just from that, even shaking in your chair, I'm like, I feel a little tingling. I feel a little warmth.
Hmm.
Ah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel a little less stressed now. I can go about my day. So those are the first two, kind of a more yin and more yang. And then the third one I like to do is I'll tap, right? So from the nervous system, more the somatic reset, right? The somatic reset button from polyvagal theory,
Hmm.
and helping to down regulate, they call it, right? So you tap the thymus, right, which is right near the collarbone, right? You tap that area and just take deep breaths any way you want. Just and then naturally you'll find that you want to sigh. Like naturally you'll be like, wow, like it's like I feel the weight clearing off my shoulders. Sometimes I'll go underneath here,
Under the
the
sternum.
sternum, yeah, under the
Yeah.
sternum, right? Because the
Mm.
diaphragm starts to get locked up when we're stressed, when we're tense,
Hmm.
right? And so we call it, fight, flight, or freeze, right? So if we're stressed out, our muscles tighten so we can run or we can fight, right? Or there's a freezing component. So when we start to tap these areas, it's like, hey, you're safe, relax, you're safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. So and then you can repeat some simple word like that. I'm safe right now in my body. I'm grounded. I'm a good human. Even though I just yelled at my daughter, it's okay. I forgive you, David. Right? So that's kind of some of the like natural, like, and you don't have to say a word, right? Just breathing and tapping, you don't have to say a word. But naturally, there may be a few things, right? If you're stressed out, you're like, wow, I feel mad about this person in my life. Okay, let me just like, instead of judging and criticizing and getting all worked up, let me just like have compassion for my heart right now. Like, let me just relax and calm my nervous system. I take responsibility for myself and my energy, and I calm my nervous system right now. Let's do that. 3 more breaths, just tapping and breathing. And then you can tap where you want. You can tap on the belly, ribs, right? We store a lot of tension, frustration in the rib cages. The liver on the right, the spleen on the left, just helping ourselves trust our body right now. And we don't need to figure anything out. We don't need to react, right? We just need to relax. But this is like active relaxation, right? We're clearing tension from the body right now. Let's take one more breath. Simple tapping practice. And let your palms rest on your body and take 3 more breaths in stillness. Or your hands can rest on your lap. If you're driving, you can have one hand on the wheel and or 2 hands and just relax. Feel. All right. And then open your eyes slowly. And feel there's about 80% of your awareness, your energy is here in your body. Maybe there's 20% out there, right? Whereas most of the time, 80% of our attention is out there. And
Minimum.
there's no awareness in here. There's like 5% is in here. It's like, what am I feeling? So that's Qi Gong. Self-regulation, calming the nervous system is the first step to healing. So I teach Qi Gong to wounded warriors, like veterans. Also I do a lot of trauma-based Qi Gong for various populations. And so it's a really powerful tool that we can use in our daily life, just like we did. So those 3 are like a really simple 3 you can do for a few minutes, a couple times a day.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's so valuable for people to have like kind of like press the button tools, that you can use, and really just these 3 short movements already do something in the system. So I can feel a change, right? And yeah, it's amazing how much we can get into the body with just simple practices, and how that increases our overall well-being. Perhaps 1 or 2 sentences or few sentences on this idea of polyvagal theory and the tapping. I mean, what's happening in the body for people who are interested, like this somatic practice? What's going on here? Why is that even calming me?
Yeah, that's great. So, kind of in a nutshell, touch, right? So in our school, we talk about the 4 somatic tools that calm our nervous system, that are scientifically proven to help us self-regulate, right? So these 4 somatic tools, one is the breath, right? When we slow our heart rate, we slow when we slow our breath, we slow our heart, we slow our mind. When we speed up our breath, we speed up our mind, right? So from a polyvagal theory, like our breath, right, is what activates our parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest, or our sympathetic nervous system. And there's more branches in that, but we'll keep it simple, right? The sympathetic is like, I'm gonna go run, I'm gonna go get that tiger, I'm gonna go do some CrossFit, I'm gonna go do some Shaolin, right? I want to get amped. So I'm gonna do some warrior's breath. So warrior's breath is kind of gonna amp you up, right? So if I'm stressed out, I might use warrior's breath to like move the adrenaline. I'm gonna use the warrior's breath to amplify and like, now I'm ready, and I've transformed that stress into excitement, right? Like going on the football field. I'm like that's the Qi, right? So the breath is the first controller of, or command center, right? It's like commands everything. And it's all scientifically proven. It's the breath alone. Then you have the touch, which is another one of the 4 somatic tools, the touch. And you just touch your body, you touch your heart, right? You just like touch your belly. There's like I always want to, I just want to relax, you know, and that co-regulation we learn is from our parents. So many humans don't know how to regulate their nervous system because they weren't taught, or when it's not taught, it's embodied. You know, if our parents were calm and grounded and knew how, well, then we also learn how to self-regulate when we're stressed out, you know, and when there's a family argument or something, or there's just like, oh, like, are we able to then come full circle and calm our nervous system and talk about what just happened, you know, whether it's a couple hours the next day? It's like, yeah, I realized we got into this thing. How do we come back to homeostasis, right? And or else we're stressed for days, right? There was a trigger, there was a, you know, and even defining trauma, you know, is important from, and there's many perspectives, but you know, polyvagal theory was designed to like help heal, like, well, how do we heal trauma? Well, we have to calm the nervous and we have to get them out of stress and into calm, essentially, right? If we break it down, that simple thing. And I don't like using all the dorsivagal and all the vagal tone. It's like, you know, it's like too advanced. I'm like, what do those
Overkill.
words mean? What do
Yeah,
those
yeah.
words mean? You know, so
Activate your dorsal, ventral. What?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
making it for the layman, and for I like to translate it, it's like the ability to use these somatic tools to calm our nervous system through breathing, through touch, right? Which is more accessible right now. And those are the 2. And then the other 2 are movement and sound, right? Movement and sound. And so in that practice we did together, we did the 3. We did the breathing, we did the ha's, and we touched, right? So then you're like tripling the power. Like, dang, I'm totally grounded in 3 minutes right now, right? Whereas, or else you're just like, how do I ground? How do I ground? Let me think of like happy roses. Let me think, how do I get there? How do I get to that grounded place? Oh, I breathe. Ah. Long, slow exhale. Fastest way to calm your nervous system. You increase the length of your exhale. And you do it right now with us, right? And I can feel there's like a tingling, a coolness all of a sudden, right? So you'll notice a physiological shift. And so Tony Robbins said, change your physiology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Change your physiology. Change your
Right.
physiology. Wim Hof, you know,
Hmm.
he said, to tap into your nervous system, tap into your breath.
Hmm.
To tap into
Yeah.
your, to God is to tap into your nervous system. I was like, whoa. I was like,
Hmm.
what? He said those, Wim Hof said, when you see those lights going on in your third eye after doing all that breath work, you know, he's like, those are your chakras lighting up. I was like, whoa. And I was like, those are the nerve plexus. You know, in Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, I'm just like, it's all
Yeah.
energy
Yeah.
cultivation. It's all coming together. So for me, I break it down in those 4 somatic tools, right? Breath, touch, movement, sound. Those are what we're
Beautiful.
mastering. If you master
Beautiful.
those, you master your life, right?
Boom. That's amazing. 4 powerful tools. And then we may add, I think, also like what was shared with me recently was in all the energetic cultivation practice, proper energy flow within the system can only happen when we are relaxed. So what we do is we prepare the body, the entire system basically, to we tell them, yo, you're safe. You don't need to hold on. You don't need to clench. You don't have to be stuck in your trauma response. You can let go, you're safe. And then when everything opens up, and this feels interestingly very pleasant, then energy can flow the way it is supposed to flow, right? And then higher dimensions of energetic cultivation practice can start, and we can also go into spiritual cultivation. Very hard to do spiritual cultivation when I'm trapped in a trauma response in my body.
That's
So
right. Thank
it's
you for
like really,
naming that.
yeah, it's like really such a bridge through
Yeah.
working through the body with the tools of the body
Yeah. Yeah,
like to reach different realms and states of ourselves, right?
that's right. I love what you shared there. It's hard to cultivate spiritually when I'm in a trauma response,
Right.
right? And that's
Yeah.
so real deal. And I want to speak to that because that connects to spiritual bypass. So people
Mm.
who are stuck in trauma responses and don't have the somatic tools. And I saw this
Uh-huh.
living in Berkeley with a bunch of, lovely older white people who were Buddhists, right? And they
Uh-huh.
just did meditation. But then there was but then there was a certain degree of these lovely humans that started to, I started to do some qigong with, and we started to talk about trauma with, and they also had like some therapy perspective, right? And what
Mhm.
I realized in therapy, there's very little embodiment and movement, unless it's a somatic therapy.
Yes.
So they're
Yes, yes,
talking
yes.
about the trauma, talking about the issues. So you have
Concepts
a
and
new,
ideas.
yeah, you have a new orientation, but there's
Yeah.
not a felt sense of safety. There's not a felt sense of I got to express that anger that I couldn't
Hmm.
express when I was 7 that
Hmm.
needed to get expressed. I needed to yell, and I might need to yell right now, but it doesn't always look like that, right? It's like
Hmm.
I just need to feel the expression. Maybe I need to cry or laugh or like I just need to do this and just like moan and groan and just let the energy out. And that's I'm seeing like the important part of these somatic qigong practices for the people who are spiritual bypassing and just meditating and reading books. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's great and all, but it's like you're escaping where your life, you're escaping going to retreats or your meditation cushion or even your qigong. There was many years where I was just like, I can't handle that. I'm going to go do qigong over here. I can't handle
Yeah.
that. I'm going to go read about my emotions and spirituality over here.
Mhm.
But I mean, everything helped, right? That helped me understand and get a new perspective. Oh, here's where I'm storing the trauma. So now I'm prepared. So the reading is a beautiful thing. I love reading. I got so many books, and I
I know.
realized
And I get lost
I
in
really,
them.
so it's like
Yeah.
it's a healthy obsession, and so like that practice, like when I'm overcompensating, I want y'all listening to contemplate this. Where do you overcompensate? Meaning when I feel stressed out or not enough, I go to my spiritual practice or I read books, right? I kind of want, or maybe I start to work out too much, and then I kind of hurt my knee. I was like, oh, I need to like do all my Shaolin and Tai Chi, and then I'm just doing too much. It's like then I start buying too many books. I'm like, ooh, I need this book. I need. I'm like, no, David, just no more books for a whole month. You can't buy one book for a whole month, David. Right?
Ooh.
It's like
Yeah.
that's the test. 3 months, David.
Yeah.
Can you not buy one new book? Right? So like I'm laughing at myself because I'm not perfect. Well, nobody's perfect, right? And so it's like, how do we lean into I'm safe as I am? I don't need more things, right? So there's spiritual bypass, mental bypass. Most people mental bypass through their phone, right? They're like, ooh, do,
Yo.
do, do, do,
Hmm.
do. And then there's a
Hmm.
momentum. I want to speak to that. How do we detox and break up with our phone like a girlfriend or boyfriend? How do we break up with our phone? Seriously, and have a new relationship is a real thing because it's a real energy. And that energy of the phone, when it's sitting there, it says, hey, check out YouTube. Go look up Shaolin. Hey, look
Hmm.
up football highlights. Why don't you? That's what my brain says. Other people are like,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever your brain says. It's like, I'm
Hmm.
like, so I had to do this. I had to delete my YouTube app. I had to delete it, like, I had it on there for years and I was like, YouTube is taking over because I just want to like, and it's on my, literally, it's like a psychic bug in my head of like, oh, it's 3 in the morning. I can't sleep. Maybe I should do Shaolin. What? It's like, no, dude, stop that. Put that down. But or I find myself watching Mike Tyson boxing, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm like, I
Yeah.
love Mike Tyson, but it's 3 in the morning. What am I doing? And
Right.
so like that's not a common thing, but I started to notice every now and again I was like, that kind of feels unhealthy. It kind of feels like something's out of balance. Whereas instead at 3 in the morning, if I wake up or whatever, I can just put my hand on my heart, my belly, and do some breathing. All right. And sometimes my daughter wakes up scared. She might be having a nightmare. And she said, Dad, she says, Dad, pillar of light. The Dad, pillar of light. And the
Oh.
pillar of light is the 1 through 10 the invocations that we learn to create sacred space for healing in medical Qigong. Right. So we do 1 through 10. And now we do it every night. And sometimes in the middle of the night, if and I'm just like, 1 is fun, 2 is calling in divine light and healing. And and then I can go back to sleep. She can go back to sleep, you know? So if we're not careful, where our attention goes, energy flows, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just so important. I feel like the thing that I get the most concerned or worried about is, my kids or my friend apparently getting hijacked by technology. And, this is lovely. I love being able to be with you in this moment through technology. And the importance of us returning to nature and silence and our walking through nature is a great spiritual practice.
Amen.
Walking through nature
Yes.
for 2 hours without
Yes.
your phone, without
Yeah.
nothing to do, just
Yes.
feeling, breathing, touching the creeks and or maybe it's just a park. Maybe you just go to a park and there's some fresh grass, or maybe you're in a city and you just look up to the sky and you see some there's nature is everywhere. And that return to our essential nature is what we're losing in today's modern world. People are very
Absolutely.
disconnected, and that's why we're here to become embodied.
Boom. Here we go. Here we go. Oh man, you're actually opening up an entire new a topic that I would love to dive into with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Why do you do what you do? Like, but
Mm.
why do you do what you do? And what's the concept of God for you? How would you describe it?
I love it. Getting
Just
deep.
yeah,
Yeah. So
have to.
I feel like when I tune into the word God, I tune into the loving universe, the all-pervading, abundant universe that is represented through the wind and the water and the trees and the sunshine. So, we call it an earth-based tradition. So the ancient shamanistic traditions before religion, right? Before religion ever came to say God is this, and you got to read a book and you got to pay your dues. It's like no. Before all of that, the temple of God was in the trees, in the mountains, in the rivers, and the spiritual energy. Where we remember who we are. So we are each sparks of the universe. We are each sparks of God, and we remember the unique spark that we are when we are in the presence of the elements, the sunshine, our bare feet on the grass and the earth. And then we remember we are one with the universe. We are one with the mycelium. And when we eat those sacred mushrooms, we remember. When we drink our sacred teas, God shows up through these beautiful natural intelligences. And each of you listening now, there's a natural intelligence or innate intelligence of your soul. Right? We call it the soul gifts or the Yuan Shen, your original spirit. And when we connect to nature, we can find it, whether you believe in God or not. You don't need to believe in a God. You need to just allow yourself to feel the presence of the universe that is, providing for us even now. And we live in a technological world that, says there's a lot of scarcity. We don't have enough, and so really unplugging from that fear matrix of society is very important to reconnect to our soul. And our soul then reconnects to heaven chi and earth chi, because that God exists in all of that. The divine exists in all of that, and there's so that's my long answer.
Well, thank you for sharing that, brother, because
Yeah.
it's not easy to put it into words without
Yeah.
just vomiting out what we have learned in religious textbooks, right? Like, what's your definition of it? And then it's beautiful, and I wanted to, and this is exactly what I wanted to dive into with you,
Mm.
because I know that you have explored many different spiritual and wisdom traditions. I mean, we spoke about Judaism and Kabbalah. We spoke about Native American traditions that you also feel very connected with. I know
Mm.
that we
Mhm.
spoke about Buddhist and Taoist approaches. We spoke about ancient Egypt, like in our conversations. Like it's always there, and all of them seem to connect through nature because that's what we all are, nature at the end of the day, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. That's what I feel like the difference between like a mystic and say like a scholar as an example. The scholar may look at all the differences and the nuances and what's different about all these religions or wisdom. And a mystic is like, what's the same?
Interesting.
What's the same thread through all of these, And I remember being with Grandmaster Sifu Johnson, and I brought my daughter to see him. This is after I launched my very first year of certifying medical Qigong practitioners, and I was hanging out with him and his wife, and it was so lovely. And I'd known him now for gosh, 12, 13, many years. And I went to his house, and I could feel how he is even more loving and present than I remember, and just feeling like he's continuing to grow, even though I think like like, wow, the mountain of enlightenment, it just keeps going, of awakening and softening and beauty and harmony. It's like there's never an end point, And there's something he shared with me, because he trains also with different traditions, and he calls himself a Taoist Christian mystic. A Taoist Christian mystic. So, he's well versed in Taoist and Buddhist and Kabbalah and Christian mysticism. And I was like, wow. And he's like, he's not at odds with himself. He's like, yes, there's a thread. And he was training in Brazil with some Brazilian mystics and shamans, and he pointed to my tattoo, and he said, he looked at it, he said, that's medical Qigong, that's the Brazilian mystery school too. He was like, it's all in there. He's like, it's all in there.
For those
And he,
people who cannot see, what's your because
yeah,
they're
oh
listening
yeah,
to this,
that's right, they're
what's your
listening.
tattoo? Yeah.
So on my arm is a tree of life from Kabbalah, and it's like it's heaven and earth and man and human, and it's the elements, and so there's if you go back, I invite everyone to in their life to find the natural designs and symbols that you're drawn to, right? There's something simple that calls to our soul, right? And then you will find the spiritual path that you're meant based on those, like, do you resonate with Buddha or Jesus, or the symbol of the mountain, or the symbol of the water or the fire? There's something very powerful and simple about, like, what are you drawn to? What's already in your room? What do you already surround yourself with? you know and then we recover those aspects of, like, some soul remembrance, like, oh yeah, yeah.
That is so perfect. Obviously, it has to be perfect. How could it be any different? But or rather, and I'm training
There we
myself
go.
to say less
Well done.
but and more and
Well done.
this is perfect. And I mean, this is such an amazing clue, because I noticed that when working with my clients as well, many people are like, oh, what I'm here to do, what is my purpose, this and that, blah blah blah. Like these questions, these questions come up at a certain time in our lives, in all of our lives. And hopefully we start to ask these questions ourselves and don't wait for catastrophes to hit our lives until we start questioning, right? But then it's always exactly what you said, when we just look what we already love, what already fascinates us the most, and then let that passion pretty much guide us home with like these little hints,
Yes.
right? Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I want more of that. And then there's so much more knowledge, so much more wisdom, and the mountain can guide you, and the Kabbalah
Yeah.
can guide you, and
Yeah.
the sacred mushrooms can guide you, and the teachings
Yeah.
of the Buddha, of Jesus the Christ, they can guide you, or the music can guide you, or
That's
mathematics, whatever it
right.
is, right? It's like,
Yes.
oh, whoa.
Just got an activation there. Thank you. Just let me breathe that in.
Hallelujah, motherfuckers. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
good. It's all perfect.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. What I appreciate in this moment is your ability to transmit through some simple sounds, your and your ha's and ho's, like, and also your joy and um approachableness, right? Like, I feel like we're here to transmit this to the bros, and, like, I'm all about balance, equality, yin yang, masculine, feminine, and there's a masculine and a feminine in all of us, regardless of your, like, sexuality or your gender orientation. It's like, no, you have a feminine and masculine pole inside of you, You have a yin and a yang inside of you. And that's so key. And I feel like so many people don't know who they are, their identity, right? And, without going into a conversation about, various hormones and, other things, it's like at the end of the day, whether or not you believe in a God or that you're, oriented toward this religion or that sexuality, it's like, I am none of those things. Those are not me. I can just put all that aside. I'm not my gender. I'm not my sexuality. I'm not my religion. I'm not, my roles in my business. I am spirit. And how do we remember? We go to nature for, a few days and remember who I am, who you are, beyond all the roles and the names. And that's where you discover your soul. Say, oh, yeah. And I might like to wear, robes or rainbows or whatever you like to wear. That's great.
Right.
But then you know who you are on the inside. You know who you are on the inside. And today I felt like
No.
wearing a robe. I wear this on
Mhm.
special occasion. I've been wearing it about once a week.
Beautiful.
I want to get into the zone. And I just felt
Yeah.
so excited to put this on and be with you,
Nice. Fuck, I
So
love it.
so that's another fun thing that y'all listening, like, take a camping trip, and or something, or even just a half day. Take a half day off. Take a half day off, 4 hours. Go for a walk. Go for a hike. Whether it's hot or cold, get on the right gear and go. And be.
Just fucking be. Yeah. The funny thing, and that's probably the greatest joke of it all, that it is actually not that complicated. But the ego mind wants it
Yeah.
complicated. Give me the most intricate, most complicated technique, but it's actually is so
Mm.
simple. So
Mhm.
simple.
Mhm.
And what just came up for me, because you spoke about spiritual materialism earlier, is also this collecting more and more knowledge, more and more stuff, more and more tools.
Mm.
Why have we ever given this one tool the chance to really use it and work through it to the point of pain or boredom or whatever, right? And then,
Or
boom,
enlightenment,
or enlightenment for that matter.
right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, there's a lovely Buddhist quote. I always love, heaven and hell are 1 inch apart
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
based on your state of consciousness, right? So I remember my first spiritual experiences playing football at
Mm-hmm.
like 11 years old in a squat, like a horse stance, right? Wide squat with a helmet on and pads and being like,
Yo.
and it was like, forever. And I was burning and I was like burning. My eyes were sweating. It was 110 degrees. I was 11 years old and I had my first, most profound experience of God. I was like, and I became everything and there was no more pain and I was fully enlightened, fucking avatar. I was like,
Oh, holy shit.
and I was like, whoa, this is what I'm here for, And then I had these different experiences through athletics of like profound spiritual experiences, sprinting the hills and the mountains. And then I started to find it through meditation or through the nature, breath work in, next to a tree or a waterfall. I'm just like sitting down and breathing, and all of a sudden, pop, I'm like, I can hear the birds from 2 miles away, and I can feel the vibration of, I'm like, oh, this is all real. And our body is the vessel. Our body is the vessel. So it's about embodiment, not about transcendence.
Oh man, this is. I think we have to record another episode another day. Also, I would
Let's
love
do it.
to dive
Let's do
into
it.
these like mystical experiences with you a little bit, like that can happen in nature and in practice and all these things, because this is. I feel like this is amazing, but might be a little too far for now.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah, yeah.
as a matter of fact, for people who are like, okay, this dude, David, I love his Qui Gon Jinn Jedi Knight look, or the way he speaks, the way he regulates his nervous system, the way he teaches Qi Gong. Like, what do you do? What do you offer right now? And like, where can people
Hmm.
find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, I would say the best place is my YouTube channel, which is Noble Movement, Noble
Uh
Movement.
huh.
And then the website. So we have a year one program, and we also have a Noble Ninja program. So if you want to get into
Noble
some
Ninja.
dope movements. It's an 8-week module. It's like, and it's more athletic. It's like warrior Qigong, right? So it's tactical fitness meets a little breath work, but a lot of foam rolling. So like if you really want to get a big well, it's not big. No Ninja is a great access point for like movers, for the people who like to exercise, if you have injuries or a little older, I wouldn't recommend Noble Ninja first. I would recommend going to the YouTube channel that I have and doing some immortal form, Qigong, or Tumo. Tumo breath practice is nice, right? Unless you have too much hypertension, right? If you have too much hypertension, do some, primal Qigong, right? So there's tons of free stuff. And then we have a year long starting in a week, actually. In one
Okay.
week, we have the year-long somatic Qigong practitioner training. And I'm so excited because we have retreats now, twice a year. We have year 1, 2, and 3. So we have a master's program now. We have a 3-year master's degree, in Qigong. So I feel like so blessed and nourished to be doing what I love.
Mm.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and can't
Beautiful.
wait for you to come back to the retreats, and we'll hang and train.
Oh, 100%. And I still
Yeah.
left my underwear and my travel towel at your place
Oh, that's
after
right. That
after
is too
what my
funny.
laundry.
That is too funny. That's how you know
Yeah.
your ancient Shaolin brothers, when you like.
Yeah, I'll be
That's too
back. I'll
funny.
be back, bro. Don't know when
That's
yet,
too
but
bad.
I'll be
I
back.
know. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah. So what else? Is there any other last things before we
Yeah.
close? Yeah, excited to for each of you who are listening, to apply some things, in the middle of your day, right? A little tapping, a little breathing, take that time this week, like carve it out in your day. When am I going to go to some nature? Or maybe in a couple weeks, or maybe you're in launch mode like me, like I ain't got, right, but just find some time, and I
Hmm.
always got at least some time, right? Because I live in the woods, so it's nice, like, right? It's nice. So yeah, that's it. I just thank you, Dorje, for hanging with me and inviting me into your podcast here.
My
Um,
pleasure, my honor.
yeah, yeah. And then next time we chat, we can go deeper down into, healing trauma or ancestor work or the mystical experiences in nature, right? We can have some really juicy themes and topics that we can, you know, dive into.
Absolutely. And I would also encourage listeners, people, audience, if you watch this or listen to this, let us know. Give us feedback, like if you have questions or topics that you think, it would be lovely from you guys to hear if you want to talk about it, let us know. And then we can flow into these topics the next round, because yeah, man, I'd love
Yeah,
to keep the conversation rolling with you, brother. Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay.
Much
Thank you so
love.
much, brother, man. Thank you so much for coming, and
Yeah,
always so lovely to have you here. See you next
yeah.
time.
Thank you,
Peace,
brother.
peace.
See you next time.